Welcome, everyone. My name is Tony Cockmo, president of the DFW BIM Infrastructure User Group, and thank you for another webinar, attending a webinar for our user group. Today, we got two special guests from Autodesk. We have Brianna and we have Alyson from Autodesk, and they'll be presenting over what's new in Autodesk Forma. So I'm excited to see what kind of new features have been added to Forma and what's happening in the cloud platform, the latest updates and stuff. So if you are not part of the user group, if you go to the www.dfwbiug.com, you can go and join our user group through our official website, and that will take you to our MeWe platform. It's a private platform where you can participate and actually collaborate and network with other design professionals, from architects to engineers, designers, CAD managers, BIM managers, GIS managers. We got a whole group of people on there. We got almost close to 400 members on our platform, and we're pretty much on there 24/7. So just collaborating and sharing information about Autodesk and tips and tricks and industry best practices. So Alyson and Denver and Brianna, I'll let y'all take over and let's see what is happening in Autodesk Forma.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Tony, again for inviting us. We appreciate the time for everybody who's here live with us, as well as those who are going to be watching the recording. Allie and I are live today from the Autodesk Denver office. So we're trying out the conference room setup, but we appreciate your time. I actually wanted to start here with a little bit of a different idea. Is anyone on the call you ever heard of or familiar with Patrick McLeamy? He was the CEO of HOK. He also was a chairman of Building Smart. He coined this idea of the McLeamy curve, or the effort curve. And we use this in a lot of our slide decks here at Autodesk, but I wanted to put this front and center because this idea is really why Autodesk has gone in the direction of Forma. And this comes down to the idea that it costs much less money to make a design change earlier in the process than later. I think that's a pretty given, I think, statistic. We all know that it is easier to make a change up front, which is why Autodesk has really invested in solutions that allow you to have a lot more information earlier in the design process, and that's where Forma comes into play. So we're going to talk a little bit about what's new. In order to do that, we're going to cover the recent brand change. We're going to specifically focus in on now Forma site design and the extension environment that surrounds it. Then we're going to go into Forma Board, because Forma Board is now available to every single Docs user or Forma data management user. And then we've got a little bonus at the end, kind of behind the curtain look at a new Forma solution that's in development right now. You can't find this anywhere else, so we encourage you to stay to the end and see what that is. Like Tony mentioned, you're joined by my friend Allie and myself. I'm Brianna Grimm. You can call me Bree. I am working with our enterprise customers here at Autodesk, but I'm a licensed architect by trade. I dabble in a little bit of all of our solutions, but ever since Forma came to market back in May 2023, it quickly became one of my favorite tools, something that I wish I had when I was practicing. So I'll be taking you through some of the slides and a little bit of demo today, and Allie's going to be helping me with most of the demo. So Allie, you want to tell them?
Yeah, thank you. So my name's Allie. My background also is architecture and then interior design as well. I am also a licensed architect and then certified interior designer. A lot of commercial work, multifamily, kind of a whole gamut of that. And then like Bree, since starting at Autodesk and the release of Forma, it's quickly become one of my favorite tools. I get to spend a lot of time in there playing around. Same thing, I wish I had it back when I was in the industry, even a couple of years ago. And it's a very rapidly evolving tool that just gets stronger and stronger, quite literally by the month. So excited to be here today and show you guys what's new, a little bit more of just what got released in the past week or so, and then Bree's little bonus at the end, just to give an idea of the vision and what they're hoping to do.
Yeah, we try to have a little teaser, something to keep it interesting. So, okay, we do want to walk you through a bit of the history here. So Autodesk Forma would have been announced at AU, gosh, almost 5 years ago. It came to market May 2023. It is a cloud-based solution, so when we talk about those updates, we can see them in real time. It doesn't require you to do an install to see the latest and greatest. It just automatically gets pushed to the platform. So that means that change is happening a lot more rapidly. And so part of that fun change was the brand. So I wanted to give everyone a bit of the story as to why this happened. This did happen on March 24th, so gosh, maybe 3 weeks ago. You would have noticed that the Autodesk Construction Cloud terminology has now gone away. We market it as ACC has joined Forma, but in reality, it is still the ACC infrastructure, built on AWS, and all of the buttons are the same, the URLs are the same, and really it's the Forma design component that has now been integrated into that ACC infrastructure. So a lot of people want to know why we do this, and I like to say, if you've ever heard of the book, it's called Zone to Win. Autodesk quite literally organizes our business into the 4 quadrants that are discussed in that Zone to Win book. And so back in 2018, Autodesk acquired PlanGrid, and it was our attempt to get into this transformation zone, to get into a new space. And so PlanGrid was our introduction into construction. And they worked with the BIM 360 group to create, build and all the things that we see today, but they worked like a startup in isolation. They got to pick their own name. And that's how we got the word construction kind of on this platform that was meant to be for a much bigger audience, from design, build, and even operate. And so in those years of construction growing in Autodesk's business, it hit a point where it could stand alone. And so we needed to integrate all of these different parts together, and that involved this brand change, which is Forma. It's a little bit more of an abstract term. I think it's meant to kind of allow us to flex between, again, design, construction, and operations. So since March 24th, you're going to see that all of the interface has changed. ACC as the platform name is now Autodesk Forma. If you had been using Forma up until March 24th, that in-market solution is now Forma Site Design, which we'll focus on today. You also know that Docs changed to data management. That one is pretty key because part of Autodesk's strategy is to get away from locking data into a proprietary file type and getting to a place where we can access smaller bits of data inside of any given file. That also allows us to be much more operable with third parties, non-Autodesk solutions. And then a couple other offerings, the BIM Collaborate Pro is now design collaboration, and build stays build. We just pin that with Forma. So that's all it is. I decided to just, since we're starting here, put a couple of screenshots just to show how light of a change it is. Docs to data management. Forma does go to design. Account goes to hub. So hopefully this isn't news to anyone on the call, but we just wanted to recap it. Again, if you're someone who is an admin and gives licensing to people, you'll see too in the platform Forma changes to design, because we intend to keep expanding what Forma for design means. There's site design, there's building design, and again, I'll introduce another component of that at the very end of the call. And one last screenshot here, the old ACC homepage will now look like Autodesk Forma, slightly different kind of default access, see the word hub again, but everything else stays the same, even the URL. Okay. And then this is the last thing that I wanted to show is now with everything being called Forma, we have to delineate between Forma for design, so something that we're using at the beginning of a project, versus Forma for construction, something that is more in that pre-construction and construction phase. If I were to look into my crystal ball, I assume at some point we're going to also have Forma for operations in the way that we talk about this for digital twins and tandem. But just to orient you for today, Ali and I are going to focus on specifically Forma for design, and we're going to do more of our demos around Forma site design. Okay, so then the big buckets of Forma for design here is the site component, the building component that literally launched last week, and then also Forma connected clients. So I'm not sure if this audience are folks who typically go to Autodesk University and tune in digitally, But Forma Connected Clients was a big announcement this previous year. And finally, last week, this came to fruition, and that is the bridging between desktop and cloud solutions, allowing Forma for design in the cloud to also be available inside of the Revit interface. And the intent here is to keep growing the Forma Connected Clients. So beyond Revit, they want to do AutoCAD and Civil 3D. And so you're going to see more and more infrastructure capabilities start to come into the Forma platform, even if it feels a little bit more architecture and building geared for now. That is not the end. There is so much more coming. So with our focus on site design today, just wanted to put into 3 buckets what it can do. So the first part of Forma site design is the fact that it offers completely free context. So if you're going in and you start a project, you end up typing in an address, it can be anywhere in the world, and it will start to create a site for you with a piece of topography. And it's going to use local sources. So if you're building in the US compared to Canada, compared to Australia, Europe, there's going to be different sources that you can pull in for topography, property boundaries, roads. We do have rails as well. And then the site, the context buildings around the site that you're developing. Historically, that you had to go to a bunch of different sources to pull all of that information in. Instead, Forma, you can do it in one spot and you can do it in a matter of seconds. So that's the first bucket that site design helps with. Second is the concept design. So when you start to think about massing on a site, we're looking at building to building relationships and just being able to quickly throw your ideas on the screen. And then you can check different options, see if one might be better for a certain site than another. Or if your client just needs to see 3, this is a quick way to build those different proposals. And then our last bucket here is the design analysis. So when we're looking at our different options that we've put together, we can evaluate if one might be better for sunlight and daylight hours at different times of the year. How is the wind interacting on the site? Microclimate, noise, energy, and now also carbon has been introduced. If you've got any clients who are asking for an embodied carbon study, this makes it very easy to make that information, make those decisions earlier in the process. So instead of going to a bunch of different sites when you've got your final design and trying to figure it out kind of last minute, Forma site design is allowing you to do that way earlier in the process. Again, if we look back at that curve where we started, the value prop there is it's going to save you money. It's going to save your clients money. You're going to have less rework later on. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Allie. She's going to do a live demo of Forma site design. We've picked out a couple, not a couple, 3 specific tools we wanted to highlight. And so you should be able to share now.
Okay. I got a quick question before we get started.
Yeah.
I don't know how familiar you are with InfraWorks. Is the data you're downloading, that GIS-free public data you're downloading, the same data that InfraWorks pulls from? Do you know? Like InfraWorks, you can pull like road data, terrain data, imagery, some imagery data and stuff like that. Is it completely different? Do you know?
Who are the providers?
That would be the question. So it depends on who, and I don't know the alignments within InfraWorks of what who the providers are, but essentially it's all going to be open source data. So I think Forma potentially has a few more, mostly because we've been so focused on that we're collaborating actively. And so that does change, and it also depends on where you're located. So sites in, say, Canada are going to have different open source suppliers or information than sites in the US or London. So it does vary based on geographical location, but
they definitely, like, we do use FEMA, Esri,
OpenMap.
Yeah, OpenStreet, OpenMap,
OpenStreet,
Buildings.
yeah.
So if those are, sorry, we're not InfraWorks users, but if those are similar source data, then the answer.
Yeah, I know OpenStreet is one of them. So
okay.
Yeah, and there's like Parcel or Regrid, which one? I forget what that one's called. But yeah, so thank you. So yeah, for the site design side, I just wanted to kind of splash on this screen. If you're not familiar with where it's located within the Forma data management platform, boards that we'll talk about a little bit later is accessed here. And then the site portion is going to be under this design tab, and then it will kick you over to the associated project and site for that's within your projects located here on the platform. So if I go over on this side, this is just a site that we have, internal demo site. As Bree mentioned, it is address based. So once you plug in the address to the platform, you can choose a radius, or really it's set up as a square grid, and then bring in the data based on that size portion of the map. You do get access to different data that comes in for that. So this one right now just has a few different extensions. Where's my contextual data? And this might take a second to load. It's not showing all of my data that's loaded, but this one will have the buildings, roads. It's also going to have the grids located in there in terms of your parcels. So you can see as I highlight on here, it'll show the different parcels based on how they're laid out. And again, that is the open source data for that. One of the other nice features are under proposals is you can create really kind of as many proposals as you want within the same site. So it allows for a quick iteration study, allows you to get an idea. Our site's over here. So allows you to get an idea of the impact and the way that the site and buildings are going to interact on the site. And then within this one, so I've got a blank one here. One of the items we really wanted to touch on today is called site automation. So something that's neat in terms of some of the AI features and how that gets integrated within our software. This allows you to select, say, this area that it's parceled off within one parcel on this project. And then I can also choose different types of buildings within here, different orientations. If I've got, say, a mixed use, it'll then also give me options down here in terms of different layouts. I can choose how many floors. So if I say 1 in 10 floors, you can change the story height. You can also change building widths. So if I want to change that to 60, it'll then change the associated layout. So this is something just kind of gives you an idea of what sits on the site. Then you can also release this to the zone, and then that'll allow you to work on it within the site design platform itself. And again, all of these are kind of malleable in terms of what you want them to be, and then be able to evaluate those options in there. And then another feature that's in here that I think for all intents and purposes from a infrastructure and just overall site planning is this terrain tool. And so you are able to put a pad on a site. So if I come over to this one, I've set out a site limit already, and then you can actually portion off different terrain pads based on that. So it'll kind of give you an estimate of where that topo and your contour lines are. Again, that's going to be open source data that is available for each location. So if I wanted to kind of mark this off, you can kind of see it'll start to change and then give you your slope and grading within there. This is kind of limited to what you can change it to, but you can get, let me pull this up and you'll be able to see. So I can pull this up, it's pretty dramatic, but this allows you to see what that adjustment will do for your building pad and site overall. So if we're really just trying to raise that up, you can also depress it. So if you're looking at a site and you've got parking garages, anything underground, you can adjust it for those features as well. And then you can also build your buildings on top of that. So what I did over here is just a basic building. I put in, what's considered a parking garage. You are able to set those functions. And then I put what's considered going to be residential on the top. And then one great feature that we like to focus on within here is that you can also export these out is a few different file types. One that's nice is it exports as an IFC to Forma data management, and then also just a general IFC file and then OBJ. So if you're working with different software, you're working with different file types, you do have the ability to export those out. And then these all also, you can push them to Revit. So that's the other side that's really beneficial in that connected client part that Bria touched on, is being able to connect your concept early design back into Revit. And that connected client portion really allows more of a back and forth transition that's a little bit more seamless and really just integrates the whole site concept to the building and construction concept.
A quick thing I'll add there too is we did mention the connected clients. You see Revit today, but the intent is for Civil 3D to be, well, it's actively being developed now. We want to make sure that more and more of our, what we call like hero desktop solutions are able to be connected to this cloud-based environment.
Okay, cool. Still sharing?
Yeah, we can go back here.
Okay, great. And then we'll continue on. Bree will do a little bit more on the presentation side. We'll come back to a demo in a few minutes.
Let's see. Of course, it jumps to a different slide. Okay.
A question came up, is it possible to export the existing conditions data out?
Yes. So there are both import and export functions available. I'm trying to think now off the top of my head. The export is IFC, OBJ,
and then into Revit.
And Revit.
And that terrain comes into Revit as a topo solid. So, and then the buildings come in as Revit elements.
And they're all converted into the correct family. Realistically, Autodesk is trying to get further away from the idea of importing and exporting and more towards what we call data exchanges. If the group is familiar with our data exchange platform, where you're getting to, in smaller bits of the overall model or overall file and being able to exchange them between Autodesk and non-Autodesk solutions. So like Tekla and Esri and Rhino. Are you, Tony, just to confirm, are you seeing this Forma ecosystem slide? Okay, great. Thanks for shaking your head. Okay, so honestly, extending on to that idea is Autodesk is trying to build more of an ecosystem that is less proprietary in nature. Already on the Forma site design side, you can bring in over 20, I think there's 26 different extensions that could be brought into the environment. You also have the ability to build your own extension. So I know like someone in the chat, we were just talking about the noise analysis, and the noise analysis right now only, you can put in custom values for decibels, but they're going to be related to the linear roads and rails. So if that was something you were interested to do and wanted to build it yourself, I mean, not to say that Autodesk wouldn't also introduce something like that, but if you wanted to build your own, this platform is completely extensible. There's an API that you can build with, and you can start to build your own extensions and even make it available to the public, or just keep it private for your own firm. So I said there's 26 available today. I wanted to hone in, and I'm going to do a quick demo of 3 of them that I thought might be interesting from a bit of an infrastructure lens. And so the first is test fit for parking. The second is thicket for all different kinds of plantings and vegetation. And then the third is going to be the Esri connector or the ArcGIS connector. So just wanted you to know that there were a lot that are already available today, but we're going to take a look at 3 of them. So I'm going to flip over into Forma.
I closed out of the demo, so it should be okay.
Okay, I just opened a slightly different project. Okay. No worries. So, and then on the screen here, we're looking at Forma site design. I just picked an area out here in Colorado. See a little bit of elevation change, including the lake out here. I have a small site automation that I did earlier. But when it comes to the extensions, you're going to be looking for these 3 little building blocks. Go to add extension, and then you're going to see the whole app store available. And you can add any of these for free. Technically, some of these are by different non-Autodesk providers, so they're going to have certain limitations on like how much is free. But I'll go in here. I'm going to add our GIS connector. I'm going to add thicket and test fit. And where's test fit?
I think it's over.
Did I already scroll past it?
I think it's already in it, is what's interesting.
Oh.
It's the one that's like pre.
I might have already put it in there. Okay.
The drop down. I think in that drop down under extension. No.
Let me hit refresh. Test fit is probably the one that I use most often for parking totals when I show them to customers, but I'm not sure why it's not. That was a little weird. Okay, well, we'll go ahead and start with Thicket. So again, third-party provider in this Forma platform. It's going to, what's nice about this is it has more granular versus just like a typical popsicle. Here, I'll actually zoom in. The out-of-the-box vegetation looks a little like these little popsicles. They can be used in the analysis, which is nice. But in terms of a visualization for one of your clients, you might want more granular information on if it's like deciduous or coniferous. So these have different options. And so similar to the out-of-the-box option is you can put an area of vegetation or you can do it along a single line. So we'll start with an area. We'll be able to control the spacing. But first I need to add my kinds of trees. So I'm just going to give you an example here of the different kinds of canopies that are available. You can also control the root system. You can change the color, which can be helpful from the visualization that will, you know, if you want to just take a screenshot versus the AI visualization that we're going to show at the end, that's an option. And so you can also do a mix of trees. So I can add another one. So that's a pine. Lower those notifications. And then once I've got my mix of vegetation, I can then place it. I did create an area. So it's going to ask me to draw a bit of space. So I'm just going to follow. And do a little bit into a courtyard here. Now press enter to complete. And then it's going to generate that mix of trees in the space. So you can see a lot nicer detail that you're getting here than the out of the box. Again, if I do want to change the color, I can as well. Take a second to update. And we can also give them names because you're going to do maybe a series of different vegetation in an area. Just call it quarter maybe. Oops. And save, and then I'm going to show one more. We'll do a new line just as a quick example. And again, let's do a slightly different kind of tree. Actually, this. And now I can place that. It'll give me my cursor to edit. And this time I'll just kind of create a little alley through this space. All right, totally different kind of tree there. I can control the spacing once again if that's from the canopy or the trunk, but just wanted folks to know that we have a little bit better vegetation option via this partnership with Thicket than out of the box. Okay, so that was one of them. I would love to get back to test fit if I can. I might have to open a different proposal. That's so odd.
Yeah, I just saw it in, it might be in the demo, in that Denver one.
Yeah, all right, I'm gonna pop over, if you guys don't mind, to one of my other, you think this Denver call, this one?
I saw another one.
Okay. Again, since this is browser-based, if you ever run into any issues on your own, you can always do a good old clear your cache and clear your cookies and see what you get as a result. Because sometimes when you're getting something unexpected, it can be as simple as that. So there's test fit. So test fit is one of our parking options. I'm going to change our visual in here back to a map. Why does this on that? There we go. Something a little bit easier to see. All right. Test fit. Here we go. So once, oh.
Yeah,
Let me give this a second.
No.
Okay, there we go. Once you're in the test fit extension, you're actually going to see something that you can edit and draw with. So let's say we were going to develop this into a parking lot. Granted, this is a pretty general shape. Let me give it something a little different. Also,
It should be.
I wonder if test fit's doing something on their end. This is what you get for a live demo. This will automatically lay out the parking lot based off of series of parameters. Usually you'll see it, and you're not right now, so I'm gonna just go to another proposal.
Yeah, I was gonna say, we're putting on a different, I don't know if that makes a difference, because I did that pad depression on there.
Oh, maybe.
It's not really.
We'll go back.
You think eventually they'll add an option where you can just overlay a CAD file and then just pick a parking area based on a closed polyline that you can extract from a CAD file?
If you're talking test fit versus Autodesk, there'd be two different answers there, because test fit, they completely wrote the extension themselves and they can control what is or isn't available as a result of that. Here, I'm going to take Allie's suggestion, and that was a terrain pad. Let me try drawing parking in a different area. In terms of Autodesk, maybe. We do have the import. I see a lot of folks who use the import function to bring in a site survey as is, and it's something you could trace. But in terms of automatically extracting that into like the same amount of parking counts, I'm not so sure. Let's just draw.
I'll go talk to him then, since you're local in Dallas.
Yeah, good point. I don't know why that's not.
No, why is that? No.
Okay, maybe it's just the view.
Oh, there it is.
Fun. All right.
Fun.
So here is the parking lot. You can tell I've got a series of different points on here. It's going to stretch and pull based off of my drawing. It's also going to give me a handle for the curb cut here into the lot. And then the calculations, again, are going to be based off of the parameters that are in the test fit extension itself. One reason why I like the test fit extension over the out-of-the-box option is it will do ADA parking stall counts. So those are going to be highlighted blue visually here. And then they also have that, the buffer space that's required with an ADA stall. It'll come in at slightly different kind of values here. You can actually go in and make them round numbers. Let's say I wanted this maybe to be 18. As I'm typing here, we're going to see the changes reflected.
And I don't know why those numbers are not normal round zone code numbers. They're always off by some weird fraction of an inch, but
yeah. Come in, make it 25.
Yeah.
I always come in and
I do too. I always come in and change it.
Make it something round. But then again, yeah, this is developed by TestFit. They would be one of our partners. So we appreciate them doing that work. In terms of their roadmap, we would have to ask them. But a lot of people, they love this because it does do the ADA parking totals. And then if you go into the area analysis, you will see this reflected here with the total number of spaces, the square foot per space, and the overall square footage of the whole lot. All right. And so then our third extension is going to be Esri, which, okay, thankfully this one is already in here. So online, you're just going to see it say Esri at first. The technical name of the connector is ArcGIS for Autodesk Forma, and that is because it connects to both ArcGIS Enterprise as well as ArcGIS Online. So if you are already a user of either one of those, this is where you can sign in. And realistically, it's going to be extending your data sources that you can pull in. If you already have an existing site developed in an ArcGIS instance, that's something that we could be brought in and integrated here with Forma. So I don't have a license myself. John Sayer is really our resident expert over here at Autodesk. If you've got any deeper questions, but just know it's ArcGIS Enterprise and ArcGIS Online that we can connect and bring into this environment. Alrighty, and with that, we're gonna go back. to our PowerPoint. See how long that takes to transfer. We're going to move on from Forma site design and its extensions to Forma board. Okay, that went way too fast. There we go, Forma board. This is available today. It is very similar to solutions like Mural and Miro. The big difference here is it is directly connected to Autodesk Docs, or Autodesk Forma Data Management, as we now call it. So that is meant to be just a whiteboarding space. In architecture, we use the term like a charrette, or think about a design review. The idea that we can bring in sheets, we can mark them up. We might just be looking at concept imagery or wanting to do some renderings for a client. It's meant to be very open space canvas and very visual, so that you can also do presentations with it. So if I create a series of boards, we can basically turn it into a PowerPoint as well for those early design presentations to a client. So we are going to get into the rendering with that. I've got just like a short little video that I'll play here, but Ali's going to show this live. Any screenshot, image, or it could be a Revit model or the Forma site proposal that you started to build. Any of those things can be brought in here. And there's this little, it's just like an LLM, but like the Autodesk Assistant has a little prompt space. You can tell it to make it a watercolor, make it add this material. You were looking at, you know, a light wood or maybe a brick. It can change all of those things and just rapidly create a bunch of different images for you. So I'm gonna let Ali show that live. But again, this is pretty much, if you're an Autodesk user, there's probably no way you don't have access to Forma board for free. So this is worth taking a look. And Ali, hand it over to your screen.
Okay, great. Let me. Okay. So again, yeah, when it comes to Forma board, when you're in this site area, you can go ahead and do this click and drop down, and it'll bring you. Oh, it's taking a second. You'll have your different options in terms of where you want to go next within the Forma design platform. So there's site design, building design, and board. I've got a different proposal open under the board side, but this is where you would select it if you're already in there. If you're in ACC, that is going to be where it's underneath the Forma data management drop down, and then you can access boards in there for that specific project. So a couple ways to get to it. Ultimately, what it will bring up, and similarly, as Bri had mentioned, it's going to look kind of familiar to like a Miro or Mural. What's nice is it does function within the same project space. You can add collaborators, and there's quite a bit that you can do in here. And again, you can also, within this platform, get back to where you started. So the data management platform or the site design, this is where you can add an image. So if, again, I've got any one of these images that I've loaded in, had used for concept imagery just to start a proposal. If you've got something, an export, a PDF, anything like that, you can bring that in using this image tool. And you can see down here what I've pulled is from this proposal, I've just got screen grabs, screen captures. And then within here, I had typed in an option for it to render it and use more of kind of like futuristic modern renderings. This one was just a 3D view. And as you add each one of these, you can then modify, show, undo. And it will create another one right next to it. So you can do an iterative process as well. If you kind of decide I want to go backwards, I want to go forwards. It'll take a few seconds and generate that. And then any of these, you can kind of see, I'll scroll in so you can see the difference. Brings in different color from this other kind of watercolor rendering. And it's nice just as an iterative form. There is also some content that got loaded that we'll provide in the resources of different videos, but someone had brought in a floor plan, so office floor plan, and then used this to do some space plan layouts and trials of different orientations and overall office fits. So even down to like a floor plan level and concept, not just exterior based for that tool. And then there is also this opacity feature as well. So you can turn that up and down. And then there is a layering that you can do a compare. So it'll take the one from before and then you can overlay, kind of get a little artistic or just see some of the changes that came in as you prompted the tool in that space. And then as we were talking, Bree had mentioned you can do these exports and create PDFs or presentations. This allows you to do a presentation format based on these frames. So you can add frames. There's preset sizes, or you can do a custom one and then draw the box and select around, say, a sheet. What we had done is pulled in different site analyses and used a sheet from our template and then put the site analyses on there and then use the imagery, and you can put together a presentation. And then you can select which frames, you can reorder them. And as you present, it will actually give you an option. As this catches up, it'll do a nice little presentation that you can go through, mark up, and then you can actually also print that out. So if you're in a presentation, you've got stakeholders involved, you do markups, then you can also print that and send that to them as documentation of the meeting and what was decided upon. And it just lives in this board space and can always be accessible as well. So zooms out. There are a lot of tools down here in terms of pen markup, all of that allows you to keep track of the project from start to finish.
Perfect. Do you mind actually, really quick, because I just noticed the Q&A, do you mind going back to site design and just showing the export one more time?
Oh, sure. So if I'm in any one of these, so these are going to be the proposals. Again, if you add one, it'll add a separate one, but then each one allows you to export that specific proposal. And it's just over the little 3 ellipses and then down at the bottom, export, OBJ, IFC to data management, and then regular IFC. Or if you're pushing to Revit, that's a specific tool to push into the Revit side.
Yeah, so for the question that I saw, like if you wanted, I do get this too, if you want to go to the DWG, you would you'd go to Revit, and then from Revit could produce a DWG. It's just, we'll see that we're getting a little bit further away from the import export as much as we can. All right. That was it for board, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I think we're on to our bonus, if I'm not mistaken. Okay. So for this, I did ask, I have one more slide. Tony, do you mind we'll pause the recording just for A, if there are any additional questions from our group, or you, Tony?
Honestly, I'd love the great ideas about sketching out a site. I'm hoping not with a third party, but if I bring in, let's say, a site plan, and I'm pretty sure you can overlay a basic AutoCAD drawing, right, into Forma Site Designer, right?
It has to be a PDF, or I guess that was the other thing.
DWG, I think you can import that into the
A DWG, right?
I think you can.
I guess my screen is showed, but I think it's a D
or
WF.
Yeah.
Not
And
a
the reason I'm asking is like if I can import a DWG and I want to start, besides sketching a building out from scratch, I can pick a layer which is now representing my building. And then once it can extract that closed polygon into a building, but then I can move it around now, within my site model. I'm extracting the closed polyline. That's all it is, the closed polyline. And I could do the same thing with the parking. And that'd be kind of cool because besides sketching it and tracing it and stuff, it'd be cool to be able to say, hey, here's a CAD file, isolate the layer, says parking zone, and then it'll show the, or, and then it says convert to parking or something, and now I can start playing around with different proposals, live, I do a lot of concept plans for my clients, and I have to create a bunch of concepts. Sometimes I go up to all the way to like K on concepts,
Oh, wow.
So yeah, I guess some clients are very indecisive. So they're trying to analyze, and we're also running construction numbers at the same time when I'm analyzing site plans and stuff like that. So I constantly have to do copy, save as, and stuff like that. But here, it'd be great because I can move the buildings around and the parking will update with the test fit and stuff. But being able to extract a few things from AutoCAD or DLBG would be pretty cool and powerful. But then the rendering side, yeah, that's going to be a great selling point, to be able to just produce renderings on the fly with input value and say, because we have to do presentations for the city council and so zoning commissions and the engineering and public works department sometimes, and sometimes even the client, so selling that vision, potential vision. So yeah.
Yeah, and then file types that you can bring in. So it's going to be over in site design. Again, on that left-hand toolbar where the proposals are, it will have a little open book, and that's the library. And then you can import into the library. And so those types are going to be a mesh type. So OBJ or IFC. 2D vector is going to be a DXF.
DXF.
File format. So, and I can't remember in AutoCAD if that does keep the layers or not. And then raster images, JPEG or PNG. So those are the ones you can load those, save those to a library. Something else that's really nice is if you have like certain layouts or buildings that you've done and you use that, say, prototype often, you can put that in the library and save it for the hub. And then when you open another project, create a new proposal, you've got that in your hub. And so you can bring that in and kind of like stamp that in, I like to say, as a common. Once you've nailed it, once you've got it dialed in, you're like, I don't want to have to recreate this every time. You can save it into the hub and then load that in other projects and proposals.
I am going to mention this to the Forma team because I am curious if there is any anticipation for a DWG import and export type out of Forma. And also, like, I have seen people put a screenshot or their site plan into the board and then have the AI tool completely relay it out, and you can work with that a few times. But like, that's not in that state, right, where we're just making an image. That doesn't get you very far down the project lifecycle when you actually need to fully draw it out and create a set. So I'll ask, and Tony, I can get back to you on that.
For those that are online, does anybody have any questions? I could turn on the audio for you. If you have a question, just let me know. Raise your hand and I'll turn on the mic for you if you have a question, or you can post it on the chat. I recognize several people online from our user group. Awesome.
Good.
Good. Let's see here. So you mentioned the ArcGIS. Now, in ArcGIS Enterprise, is the enterprise strictly if you have an enterprise license, or hey, it's going to be available for you now if you're using Forma?
I'm not sure if I understand. Like, we would not.
We don't provide the licensing, so it would be through ArcGIS.
Yes, if you have an enterprise license through ArcGIS. Okay.
Yeah, and I'm not sure, maybe they do trials like Autodesk does, but it would be if you currently have a license and a credential for either the enterprise or the online version. Because I know some people like to ask that because ArcGIS Enterprise is more of an on-prem solution compared to the online version. No more questions there. But yeah, you would be entitled through Esri, but it's the fact that the data does transfer. And I also know that that's kind of iteration one of what they would like to do with Esri in the Forma space too, especially as we get more into Forma transportation, site design type, or street design type workflows.
One thing I was talking to somebody in my user group about, Forma and some of the site tools in there, and then also InfoWorks. And I predict, this is just my prediction, that InfoWorks will be embedded in Forma within the next 3 to 5 years. You know,
I also think so as well, just speaking personally.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, because it's
yeah.
kind of similar tools in the way they
Mhm.
run and use. I use InfoWorks for I can create a site plan 3D model and within like 1 or 2 hours and create something
Hmm.
for a client, no matter the size of a site. It's just a very simple schematic in InfoWorks and stuff. So I'll lay it out in Simple 3D and then boom and throw all that data into InfoWorks and then bam, I got some renderings and stuff and create a video presentation for them in an hour or two and that's it. But I see a lot of similarities, and I feel like eventually it's going to get merged into to or be an add-in, tool.
Yeah, I think that's a safe bet. I'm already aware of two other solutions in the Autodesk ecosystem that are in active research to be brought into Forma site design. So I think it's a safe bet for InfoWorks. Let's see. Then we also have the Revit Forma connected client question. I will admit, I also think it is a bit confusing the way the scenes work compared to proposals. I don't know, Allie, if
Or
you,
the scenarios.
yeah, or scenarios,
Yeah.
if you've tested that too, but it's a tech preview.
Yeah, I've not played with it yet, but and I don't know if that's meant to allow that then when you bring it into Revit, you have options to manipulate it and then push it back, but
I think part of the intent too is with the way they've rebranded Insights into
into
Forma Carbon Insights is to be able to create separate from your proposals, kind of like the simulations of the analysis, and that's where the scenarios come in. Why they aren't connected to proposals, though, I do find that confusing, if I'm just being honest.
That would be cool. Talking about Revit and Forma connector, imagine somebody's got a connection, live connection to Forma, to the cloud, and they're using Revit, and they make modifications to the building, and you just hit update, and then it gets a pop-up can come up on Forma and say, you want to update your building and your models and your proposals. That would pretty awesome.
It does from a proposal standpoint help you round trip. So
Hmm.
a good example would be like you've masked a building and then you want to add like a balcony onto, like you're maybe doing a multifamily with some balconies
Yeah.
and you want to do that in Revit. You can send that proposal into Revit. You can add the balconies in and you can send it back to Forma, and those will all stay connected and round tripped. See, so is that, I wanted to make sure I'm also answering the question. So is that linked to new carbon assets and Revit materials? It's also a really good question.
The goal, and even part of this Forma or the connected client portion is so that the analysis tools that are in Forma are also going to be starting to be available within Revit. And I can't remember exactly which ones those are. So the new carbon assets, I'm wondering if that's what you're kind of asking, but the sun or daylighting, I think, is going to be able to be tested within Revit and utilized within Revit. That's from the Forma analysis side. And then shadow studies, and I can't remember if wind is also, but essentially they're starting to tie that together that you can utilize the tools within Forma and those sustainability analysis tools also on the Revit side, and that's part of that connected client move too.
Yeah, let me get back on that one too.
Yeah, in Revit materials,
They kept that launch, to be honest, very quiet, which also tells me it may not be fully flushed out. Carbon assets in Revit materials. All right. So I've got that question along with noise and the extracting lines from DWGs written down, and I'll do my best to get answers and LinkedIn message back those folks who answered the questions. But we appreciate everyone's time on this webinar. Thanks again for the invite, Tony. Happy hump day. Happy Wednesday.
Thank you. Thanks for the presentation. Great presentation. We'll get recording done and edited out. hopefully by this week, and then send it to you for your approval, and we'll put it on our user group platform and also our YouTube channel, and then we'll send it to you so you can place it anywhere you want to put it on the Autodesk social media. So. But great
Awesome.
presentation and stuff. So if anybody, I guess, messages me through the user group, I'll forward you
Oh,
their
please do.
contact, or I'll give them your contact and they can reach out to you. Especially some of the rendering and tech preview stuff. So
Yeah.
all right then. Well, thank you very much. Thanks everyone that wasn't able to attend, and I hope everyone has a great week. And stay tuned for our next monthly webinar. So
Perfect.
thanks. Have a
Thanks.
great
Thank
week.
you.
Bye.
See ya.